All right, everybody, welcome back to Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow, and remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. And today I have a very, very special guest on my show. Let me give you a couple of words about my guest. Public health, educator, civic leader, most important, author. And she's here to talk about her book, Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Miss Nicole Vick. How are you?
I am so good. Thank you, Ty, for having me here today. Every time I see your slogan, no one is worthless and no story is worthless, I'm like, you are speaking my language. It's true. It's true.
I am glad to speak the language of many, because I really do believe in that slogan. And man, when I thought about it, I was like, no story, no one is worthless, no story is worthless. Boom, we're gonna go with that. And
right.
Here we are.
Perfect.
All right. So, we're here to talk about you. All right. We're here to talk about your book. Okay. So, as I said before, the name of your book is Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. All right. #1 on the Amazon. I had seen that. But we're going to talk about that in a second. But my first question to you is, what does it mean to actually push through from your specific perspective?
That question is, You know what? There's a couple of ways that I tend to think about pushing through. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, I do work in public health. And part of public health is social justice. The idea that everyone is worthy of having the opportunities that they need to live the best life that they possibly can. And so I think about, wow, that means pushing through. That means pushing through some of the barriers that we have in society, racism, the things that happen in the hood. We have to always push and fight against those barriers to help people in communities live healthier lives. Then I start to think about, hey, I'm a Black person. And
okay.
And the fact that much of our history is about pushing through. I had a thought the other day. My great-grandparents came to L.A. in the 1930s. And I said to myself, you know what? They are spinning in their graves right now to know that if they knew, and in 2020, that we're still fighting for our humanity, fighting for the things that they fought for. My great-grandmother was born in 1898, right? So wow. We still doing this now? What is going? So that idea of pushing through is like, how do we create a society where all of us can have what we need to be healthy, and we don't have racism, we don't have discrimination, we don't have income disparity? And so those are the things. And then the personal pushing through is just, I've been through some things, teen mom, okay, and I had to push through. And we can talk a little bit more about that later, but there are some things that I've had to do on a personal level as a Black woman in South L.A., South Central, that really helped me to get where I am today. And the book really talks a lot about those push through moments and how I was able to really get to where I am now.
Okay. Now, you know what? We're going to get into you growing up in South Central LA, because I think that's something that my audience really needs to hear. I'm originally from Chicago, Midwest. Okay. I've been out here for 2 years now. I've been out in LA for 2 years, and I always talk about the Hollywood hustle, like myth versus reality. What you think LA is going to be before you get here versus what LA really is when you do get here. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, there are two different LAs, all right? But we're going to come back to that in a minute. But I want you to explain abstract and difficult concepts like public health and health quality in ways that, it's easy for others to understand.
Perfect. So right now, we are in the middle of a pandemic, right? We got COVID-19. Everybody's like, what's going on? Stay in the house, put your mask on, don't do nothing, be safe, right? And so I think one of the things that I always tell people is that when public health is working well, you don't see us. We're behind the scenes doing all this great work to keep the population healthy. But when stuff like this happens, this is when we come out of the woodwork right. with our badges on, and we're like, yes, we're out here saving the world. Simply put, Public health is about the health of communities. Now, we all know what healthcare is, a medical doctor. When you don't feel good, you go to the doctor, they give you medication to make you feel better. Public health says, hey, we want you to stay healthy. We want to prevent you from getting sick in the first place. So that means doing things like, oh, well, let's look at this community. Does it have enough parks? Do they have enough grocery stores? Do they have those sorts of things? And I know this is controversial, but I'm gonna say it because it's part of what public health is. Vaccination is a public health strategy trying to prevent disease. We don't want you to get COVID. We don't want you to get the flu, because if you get the flu, you can end up in the hospital and you can end up really, really sick or die. So public health is about prevention of disease and promotion of health in community. So not individual. We're looking at Los Angeles collectively. We're looking at the African American community, for example. We're looking at Spanish speakers. We're looking at groups of people and trying to figure out ways that we can keep them healthy. So public health, I think, is really cool because it encompasses so many things. I know dentists that work in public health, veterinarians that work in public health. There's so many avenues. You know, those letter grades in the restaurant,
Yes.
That's public health. That's public health. We're trying to keep you from getting food poisoning. We're trying to help you.
Well, I have noticed everyone here has an A, and I'm like, do they really have an A?
No, I'm gonna tell you. They used to send out every so often. They would send out their reports of the ones that had a F, and it would tell you why. Cockroaches, like, oh, we're not going there no more. So yeah.
Okay, all right. So no, you know, I always wonder about that. I'm like, this place is kind of shady to have an A grade. Like, so be it. Oh well, you know.
No comment. No comment.
No comment on that. But no, let's talk about some of the social issues that impact Black people in South Central LA and potential public health solutions.
Ooh, that's a good one. There's a lot. Now, I don't know if you've been watching the news lately. You might have seen that a lot of jurisdictions are now saying racism is a public health issue.
Yes.
And it is. It is racism. And we're not talking about, I don't like you because you Black racism. We're talking about, I'm not going to give you a home loan because you're Black. I'm not going to give you a mortgage for a house, or I'm not going to give you money to open up a business because you're Black. That's the kind of racism I talk about and we talk about in public health that really impacts our communities and how healthy or unhealthy they are. Have you ever been to Santa Monica?
Yes, I have.
Have you noticed you don't see a lot of liquor stores in Santa Monica?
I don't see a lot of gated communities in Santa Monica.
Right. You don't see a lot of bars on windows in Santa Monica. No. You see a lot of parks. You see a lot of open space. You see a lot of dine-in restaurants. And so, you know, it might make you wonder, well, how come Santa Monica got all the nice stuff, but then when I come the other way, south of the 10 freeway, why do neighborhoods look so different? Why is that? It's not an accident. This is designed this way, and it's due to racist policies over time. So part of, again, social justice and public health work is how do we push against an existing system and, in my opinion, even turn that system around, like tear it down and build a society where, well, shoot, the folks in Santa Monica don't deserve a nice neighborhood any more than the folks on Crenshaw and Slauson do. We all deserve a park and paved streets and safe neighborhoods, right? So those are the social issues that really permeate our communities. And what happens is we manifest that in our bodies. So you live in a neighborhood that is not safe and you don't feel safe. Are you gonna go exercise?
No.
You're gonna be stressed out. Your blood pressure's gonna be high. You trying to work and try to take care of your family and pay rent, but the jobs in your neighborhood are non-existent. You stressed out. You're gonna have diabetes. All of those social issues manifest in our bodies, and that's why we end up being sick. So the solution is not necessarily more medication. It is, how do we change the environment in this society so that our kids have well-funded schools with nice brand new books. The teachers are nice, they're educated and are happy and not racist or not biased, where there are fresh grocery stores and things like that. So it's really crazy. And you'll see it. Infant mortality rates for Black women, 3-4 times higher
Yes.
than others. Why?
So,
I done opened a can of worms, didn't I?
No. Actually, you hit on a lot because, as I said before, I'm from Chicago. A lot of the same issues you have talked about, I faced that growing up in Chicago. It doesn't matter if you're from the South Side or the West Side. And as you said, our Santa Monica will be the North Side of Chicago. Okay.
Right.
When you go to the North Side of Chicago, you don't see this. It's a whole new world, okay, than coming from the South Side of Chicago. All you have to do is take the public transportation train, take one train, the Red Line, from 95th, which is on the South Side, all the way up to Howard, which is in Evanston, on the North Side. World of difference riding one train. You will see. Yeah. And speaking of which, I want to transition into what we were talking about earlier, by you growing up in South Central LA. Like, tell us about your experience growing up in South Central LA, because as I said before, the Hollywood hustle, will have us in Chicago thinking, we go out to LA, we can be stars, we can do this, they shot Boys in the Hood over here, and it's about this life over there. And really, it's a misconception that mainly the media builds up, of such a place. Like, people, when you think about Chicago, I'm not going on the South Side of Chicago. I don't want to lose my life, but right. You lose your life anywhere, so it doesn't really matter. So tell us a little bit about you growing up in South Central, what life was like, and how, and pretty much the transition from then to now.
Okay. Perfect. So I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 1978. I'm just going to go on and say it. I'm a child of the 80s. And so I grew up in what's called View Park. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with that community, but it's called the Black Beverly Hills. So my great-grandparents were business people, and they had somehow managed to own a house in that neighborhood. And I believe at the time that they bought that house, there was probably white flight, right? The white folks that lived there were already leaving and going to the valley, like, ooh, Lord, so they were leaving. And so I grew up relatively modest. It was weird. I had this weird duality. So my great-grandparents were relatively well off, Black Beverly Hills. I lived off of Jefferson and Arlington, maybe about 5 minutes away from USC, so lower income. But the twist to it was I lived in an apartment that my great-grandparents built. So they had built out that whole block. They had a series of fourplexes, my great-grandfather and a business partner. So it was weird, like, we were rich in some ways, but we weren't, because I didn't have no new clothes. I didn't have no cross colors or like British Knights and nothing like that growing up. And I can remember the whole gang thing being like big, the Bloods and Crips, and everybody was scared, don't wear British Knight tennis shoes. So I grew up in that era. I went to parochial school. So again, that duality, I'm living on Jefferson and Arlington, but I'm going to a parochial school where they're having to pay my tuition. It was a weird thing because I wasn't exposed directly to gangs or anything like that. People would think, oh, you from LA, you probably part of the gang culture. I didn't. I wasn't exposed, probably because my family was mostly older people, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents. I didn't really have a lot of kids around me growing up. I got to junior high school, went to public school. So I went to Audubon Junior High School, and that was different because I was in the little Christian school, and then I'll get to a public school and there's all these kids here. That was a different journey. I remember having a colleague in the 9th grade pregnant. I was like, what? Like, how can you even physically be pregnant in the 9th grade? I was like, oh my gosh. And started to see more of, I think, what I would say is like what really happens in communities, because I felt like I was sheltered in a lot of ways. But yeah, again, I just really felt like I was always in between this duality. I talk a lot about duality in my book. Like, on the one hand, I'm in the community, but on the other hand, I'm kind of not. And it was a really interesting thing. My great grandmother would always ask me, are you going to go to college? you're going to go to college, you're going to be Dr. Vick. And even to this day, I'm 40, almost 42. I'm like, I got to go get my PhD so I can be Dr. Vick, because that's what she told me, you know? So I had those kinds of experiences growing up.
All right. Well, you know, and honestly, that's refreshing, because you and I pretty much share that common thread. Like growing up in Chicago, I didn't go to some of the public schools in the neighborhood. I especially didn't go to any of the high schools in the neighborhood I grew up in. I've always been in parochial school. Man, as a little child, middle school up to high school, it's always been the same. But I didn't live in a rich neighborhood. I didn't live in, I grew up in a Mexican neighborhood, and there were rival gangs. There were like rival Mexican gangs. So me being African-American, I really had to watch my step every single day, getting off the train or just walking home. So trust me, I understand, you know, like going in between the two worlds, you know, man, like I live here, but I get educated here.
Right.
Can you tell us, man, what is one thing about you that you want people to know?
I would say that I'm really very much in love with my community, that I'm very intentional about the things that I do for the community. And, you know, no, I'm not, you know, this big name person or have this big organization or created something huge. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the things that I do, for instance, when I decided I wanted to own a home, I didn't say, dang, let me go to the valley and try to get out of here. I was like, no, we staying here.
Okay.
And so that was something that was really important to me, and I'm still here. Literally live 4 blocks away from where the Nipsey Hussle store is, like up the street. So, and I don't have any issues about that. People are like, oh my gosh. And I had a colleague, oh, I've never been over here. What kind of neighborhood is this? I said, the man next door got a Porsche. Like, you know, folks in this neighborhood are working class people. You know, and folks are just trying to make a living and live their lives. And I think that's always something that I have always been big about. When we talk about the hood or Watts or Compton, those people are trying to make the best of what they have. Why are we trying to demonize or create this stereotype about these communities? So I think for me, community is really important, and I'm really big on trying to create that wherever I stand or wherever I sit.
Okay, all right. I like it. What is the main message of your book?
Ooh, well, I think the main message is, again, trying to find those lights. You know, sometimes life give you some lessons and you go through some things, and how do you figure out what that lesson is, right? Because sometimes you go through something and you figure like, well, what was that about? And then you end up in this cycle, right? You kind of get into this cycle of repeating these really negative patterns. And so I tell my life story in this book really to help other people not repeat some of the stuff, because I done did some things. We don't want you to repeat those things. We want you to do better and be better. And I think that is where the book talks about those lessons. And I think that's the key message of the book. Like, you can change and create community where you are. You don't have to be a millionaire to do that.
Okay. All right. Man, before we get out of here, where can people get your book?
So my book is on Amazon, and the Kindle version is available right now. The paperback, the one that I showed you, this one, is available September 14th. So you can go on there now and pay for it, and then they'll ship it. It's also on Barnes & Noble, which I didn't even know. I Googled the book name, and I said, oh, Barnes & Noble? And I asked the publisher, she said, yeah, it's on Barnes & Noble. I'm like, why y'all didn't tell me? Why is this news to me? So it's also on Barnes & Noble as well, which is super exciting. And I'm really looking forward to September 14th. Planning on having a book launch, so I'll send you an invite, and you want to come through and let everybody else know. And we'll do it virtual, because we can't do nothing in person no more. But it'll be exciting.
Okay, all right, man. So look, my show is known for one question, all right? And I have to ask this question before we get out of here. Nicole Vick, what is the one word that best describes you, and why?
I'm going to say vibrant. I have on orange.
Okay, I like that.
I am very sort of outgoing. I love to connect people. You know, you might say to me, oh, I need this X, Y, and Z. And I'll guarantee you, I probably know 3 people that can help you. So I'm always trying to make things happen. Always trying to help people. Again, love the bright colors. And I'm always smiling. So I would say vibrant.
Okay, vibrant. I like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Where can people find you? What's your social media handles?
So I am on Instagram. My Instagram, really simple. First name, middle, initial, last name, Nicole D. Vick. Mm-hmm. I did just start an author page on Facebook. So I think it says Nicole D. Vick, author. I'm on LinkedIn. My website is almost done. So when it is done, it'll be www.nicoledvick.com. I try to keep everything simple.
Okay. Hey, real simple, real streamlined. Look here. I thank you for coming out today and talking to, me, talking to our guests, and just giving us a, inner perspective on, the inner dwellings of, South Central LA, public health, things that's going on. I love it. I love it. I love it. So with that being said, this is Word with Ty Brownlow. I am Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless. No story is worthless. You can find me on Facebook at Word with Ty Brownlow. You can also find me on Instagram at Word with Ty Brownlow. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ty Brownlow TV. And you can always just go to tybrownlow.com to get all this good interview right here, plus many more. All right? Nicole D. Vick, thank you. I appreciate you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
We out. Peace.